Well, we're going to get going right away. We have a lot to say. We have a lot to share. I want to thank you all for being here and listening to these stories. I think it's important that not only does the legislature hear what is really happening, boots on the ground in our communities, but the rest of Minnesota, because this is not just a metro Minneapolis-St. Paul issue. And it's important that the rest of the country and the rest of the world understand the terror that Minnesota is experiencing, and it is our children that are suffering the most. It's been 9 weeks since I witnessed the first ICE raid with actions and violence, escalating with over 3,000 untrained, unsupervised, violent members of ICE terrorizing our communities in Minnesota, and my communities are seeing the worst. It never stops. Over the last several weeks, we have seen ICE engage in dragnet operations, targeting our immigrant neighbors and singling out black and brown neighbors, regardless of their immigration status. ICE has strayed very far from their supposed mission of immigration and custom enforcement. We have seen countless videos of their unaccountable, unidentified, masked agents harassing, assaulting, kidnapping, and killing Minnesotans. The people who have allowed these masked agents to run rampant in our streets, violating our constitutional freedoms, our protections, and rights of the American people, must face accountability, and we must see that justice is played out. Minnesotans are horrified by these actions, and on top of that, our federal agents stood by their actions. They attempted to spin their own narrative and told us repeatedly, "Don't believe your lying eyes." Senator Swedzinski and the House chairs and I bring this group together today because we want to share with our public what we are hearing of the devastating effects that ICE has had on our educational system that we have worked so hard to bring back from the COVID pandemic. As chairs of the Education, Finance, and Policy Committees, we have been nothing but intentional in addressing the mental health challenges, the absenteeism issues, and addressing all of those things that plague our students these past 4 years. And now it is very clear that we are right back at ground zero. One of the most significant effects that have been pervasive is the pervasive fear among immigrant and non-immigrant families. Many students worry that their parents and friends are being detained or deported, which is leading to chronic mental health issues and anxiety. This fear often manifests as decreased student attendance and participation. And you're going to hear many stories of how our schools are affected by superintendents, by teachers, by students, and community members. NPR News reached out to approximately 90 of Minnesota, more than 300 public school districts in the past weeks to ask whether student attendance was being affected by the presence of federal enforcement law agents throughout the state. Approximately 24 schools responded, with over half respondents, and most of them in the metro area, reported that many students are staying home from school, and it's not just our kids of color. It is all of our students are staying home from school because they or their families are afraid of encountering federal agents. In those districts with widespread federal activity, as many as 20 to 40% of students have been absent in our recent weeks. Across the state, we have worked so hard to build educational safe havens where students find support and stability. But when students and family feel targeted, we see that they withdraw from on-site instruction, school activities, or even relocate, adding to the loss of our community cohesion. This disruption is sure to have long-term effects on the social fabric of neighborhoods, our small businesses, and it's impacting our students' learning, their friendships, and their support networks. So as we move forward, it is essential to remember that it is the well-being of our children. Our children are our future, and they are what we must be concentrating on. As Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. We have now a number of speakers, and I am going to turn this over to Mary Granlund, Community Heights School Board.
Thank you. Okay.
What did I say?
Community.
Oh,
No, that's okay. Hi. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for the invitation to be here, Senator Kanesh. My name is Mary Granlund. I am a parent, I'm a community member, and I'm a school board chair in Columbia Heights, Minnesota. It's been 1 week today since Liam was taken with his dad, Adrian, on his way home from school. Over the course of this, we've had 3 other students taken. One, the morning Liam was taken on his way to school, and 2 others, one who was driving to school with their mother, and the other who was getting ready for school and opened the door when she got a knock. Only one of those 4 students is home, and it is not Liam. Today, people across Columbia Heights woke up to cars still running, doors open, empty, left in the street. This morning on the way to school, the start of the 2nd semester, we had another student in Columbia Heights pulled over by ICE. They only let them go because they happen to have their passport with them. I called the police this morning when I had 2 unmarked vehicles outside my house. I don't need to remind anybody in this room or watching this the fear that elected officials have related to unmarked vehicles outside your home with people wearing tactical gear. The police verified it was ICE, and they stayed there. The ICE officers stayed there. This message is to remind people that this is not over. This is still continuing, and we need your help to get our kids home, to get our families and communities whole again. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Lewis, and I am the superintendent of Fridley Public Schools. I am here today because the federal immigration enforcement activities we have seen in our communities over the past several weeks have profoundly impacted our students, our families, our staff, and the very ability of our district to provide safe, stable learning for every child. Our students and families should feel safe every time they walk out the door, whether they are going to school, waiting at a bus stop, or walking home. Instead, the increased presence of ICE and federal enforcement in and around our neighborhoods and schools has created an environment of fear and uncertainty that I have never seen in my 26 years in education. We have watched attendance in our schools decline significantly. Over a third of our students were absent the day after Renee Good's murder. Families have had to choose to keep their children home because they are too afraid to send them into our community. Many have told us they fear traveling to school because they do not know what they may encounter on the way. Because of this disruption and concern for safety, Fridley Public Schools made the very difficult decision. I made the very difficult decision to cancel in-person classes on January 9th and again on January 16th. We also stood up a remote learning option in a matter of days so students could continue learning when their families did not feel safe leaving home. Today, 16% of our students are now enrolled in virtual learning. We did not have a virtual learning program at the beginning of January because they either do not feel safe leaving home or cannot safely travel across our community. This impact has extended far beyond attendance. We have seen a dramatic increase in families requesting door-to-door transportation because parents do not want their children waiting at bus stops where they fear federal agents might appear. We are now transporting both students and staff in ways we never have before because our educators are afraid to travel alone. To meet immediate needs, we have stood up food delivery by our social workers for families who are too fearful to leave their homes, and we have expanded emergency rent assistance resources to support families who need stable housing during this crisis. This is not abstract for me or for our district leadership. I am personally patrolling with our security team every morning and every afternoon during arrival and dismissal. We are checking neighborhoods, bus stops, and school grounds for the safety of our students and their families. This is what leadership looks like when fear threatens the very heart of our school community. And I need to say this clearly. The fundamental right to go to school and the basic principle of human dignity has been ripped away from our children, our staff, and our families. None of this is partisan. This is about children, predominantly children of color, being treated as less than human, and about the dehumanization of those who stand with them. Our school district has been directly targeted, and we cannot pretend otherwise. We need helpers. We need leaders, advocates, and people of influence to step in and help end this. I am asking every key influencer in the state and across the country to put a stop to the terror that has been unleashed in my school district and in school districts across Minnesota. Fridley Public School District is a diverse district. We are nearly 80% students of color. Nearly 25% of our licensed staff are staff of color, and nearly half of our non-licensed staff are staff of color. We are proud of the diversity that makes our community strong, but that also means in our community, we are living with real trauma and in terror right now. And here is where I want to be absolutely clear. Superintendents across Minnesota, standing right behind me, are writing the playbook for how to stand up supports in the face of terror that continues to be unleashed on our school districts. We are transporting children and educators. We are providing food and rent support. We are standing up virtual learning overnight. We are patrolling our neighborhoods. We are working around the clock to protect our communities. Elected officials must take a page out of our playbook. They must put a stop to this absolute targeted, horrific act. We must not turn the other way. The literal lives of our children, our educators, and our families are at stake. It is past the time to act. If superintendents can lead through terror with clarity, courage, and humanity, then elected officials can and must do the same.
Next, we have Elizabeth.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a proud parent of a South Minneapolis elementary school student and a member of Minneapolis Families for Public Schools. I want to share what a typical day looks like for the last 7 weeks for myself. My fellow parents, and neighbors as we work to protect our community. I practice this a lot, people. I start my morning off, like every caregiver, trying to get my child ready for school. In between bites of breakfast and sips of coffee, I'm checking the neighborhood feeds to see what the neighborhood is like around our school and our most important bus stops. Once I have successfully gotten my child dressed for school, we head outside, both with our whistles around our necks, just in case we need to alert our neighbors of danger. We arrive to the school and we greet our neighbors who have taken their time to show at our school. Our neighbors with the amazing frog hats and the giant smiles, the dog walkers who have changed their routines to include the school, and the retired teachers who cannot stop caring for our kids. Quickly after that, we are greeted by community cars bringing students to our school who don't feel safe coming with their parents. We try to greet them with a warm smile and a cheerful hello, but sometimes those students are scared. And that's when my small child walks up and says hello and offers to walk them into school. I am there every day because I want to give consistency and support to our children. Our schools need to be a safe and welcoming place for our students to come. This is why we need ICE out of our schools and ICE out of our state. After school, I pick up my child and 2 other students, and we begin my car service home. The moment we get in the car, one of our littlest friends asks for music. We find a playlist, and I try to imagine the parents who haven't left their homes in close to 7 to 8 weeks, trusting me, a stranger, with their kids. who can barely communicate with them, making sure that their kids get home and walk to their door. All of this is racing through my mind as I'm checking my mirrors for safety and still singing along with K-pop Demon Hunters. While I love that I have these experiences, it is their parents that should be in the car singing and hearing the stories of the day. The car ride is a special time for families. This is why we need ICE out of our schools and ICE out of Minnesota. Finally, I get home, I check in with my family, have dinner, respond to the endless text messages from my neighbors and community members, try to get some rest, knowing tomorrow we're going to do it all over again. This is the reality that parents and caregivers in Minnesota are experiencing. This is our normal. This is not an acceptable way to raise our next generation. This is why we need ICE out of our schools and ICE out of Minnesota. Kent.
Kent.
Thank you very much. I'm Kent Pickell. I'm superintendent of Rochester Public Schools, bring a perspective from outside the metro area where these issues are definitely very much in play. If the COVID pandemic taught us anything, it's that it is deeply harmful to students and to society when kids are not in school. A large and consistent body of research shows that extended absences harm students' academic learning, social development, and mental health. We also know that the learning students miss during prolonged absences reduces their lifetime earnings and collectively the long-term prosperities of our communities and our state. The sharp increase in student absences that we are now seeing in Rochester and across Minnesota as a result of the recent federal immigration enforcement activity risks repeating those same harms if it does not end soon. In Rochester Public Schools, when we compare attendance data from January 9th through January 22nd, the height of this crisis for us down in Rochester, to the prior month, we see that more than 530 additional students have been absent from our schools every day. Some absences may be due to illness or other factors, but when we look only at absences excused at parent request, the patterns are unmistakable. During this period, we saw an 81% increase in excused absences among all students, but a 417% increase among students whose first language is not English. A 116% increase among students from low-income families, a 68% increase among Asian American students, and a 376% increase among Latino students. We're also seeing significant decreases in attendance in our early childhood programs and our adult education programs, so at both ends of the spectrum. Now in Rochester, we have chosen not to move the district to hybrid or online learning. Instead, we're doing everything we can to keep schools open and welcoming and to give families options. Since January 7th, we have enrolled 186 new students in our online school, MinSync Online. So why are families keeping their children at home? It is not because immigration enforcement suddenly arrived in Rochester this month. Immigration enforcement has affected our community for decades. But historically, those actions were more targeted, and federal agencies often took steps on their own or in coordination with local authorities to minimize disruption to children and schools. The current surge is fundamentally different. Not only has the volume of enforcement activity increased dramatically, but its indiscriminate nature has created widespread fear. When people who appear to be immigrants, refugees, or people of color are stopped at random and asked to prove their legal status, that fear spreads quickly and it freezes families in place. That climate affects everyone in our schools. Students who stay home lose access to learning and support, and students who continue to attend school lose classmates, relationships, and the richness that comes from learning alongside peers from different backgrounds. And the students most affected, students of color, indigenous students, and students whose first language is not English, are the very students who, on average, have the most academic ground to gain in Rochester and in our state. I know those students want to be in school, and Minnesota needs them back in school soon. Our collective future depends on it.
And next we have Peg.
Hello, my name is Peg Nelson, and I'm a teacher in Columbia Heights Public Schools. I'm also a local 710 building rep. And I've been teaching in the Columbia Heights Public Schools for 33 years. And in the past 33 years, I have never experienced any disruption or danger to students like the current ICE occupation of Minnesota. From pre-K through high school, our school district has been terrorized by ICE operations. These actions have changed the very fabric of our Columbia Heights schools and have made every student, teacher, and parent less safe. I have always enjoyed working in this diverse district because I have benefited deeply from the gifts our students bring to our school community. We have been a strong and caring community, and during these challenging times, we have come together to support one another and do everything possible to keep our families safe. Unfortunately, we have not been able to protect everyone. ICE has detained 4 Columbia Heights students, including 2 from elementary school. So many family members have been taken, we cannot count. And at this point, almost everyone in our school community knows someone who has been detained. These are frightening times for our students, family, staff, and educators. My colleagues and I are being asked questions by students and families that, for the first time in my career, I do not feel confident answering. Families send their children to our school believing they will be safe, and we want them to feel safe, but we don't know how much we can truly do to protect them. ICE operations are disrupting our children's learning. We try to keep the school day as normal as possible, but students and families look to their teachers for answers. Children ask, "Can they take us?" And we don't know what to tell them. Families are afraid to leave their homes for fear of racial profiling and wrongful arrest. Students are afraid to come to school. We haven't seen absenteeism like this since COVID. At the same time, teachers are being asked to take on responsibilities far beyond our normal duties, placing an enormous burden on educators. We are doing everything we can, but we were not trained for this. After teaching all day, we deliver food to families in our most vulnerable areas. We wait with students in bus and parent pickup zones, trying to move as quickly as possible so families can come and go without risking encounters with ICE. Teachers and staff walk students to and from school each day to ensure their safety. Because teachers cannot legally drive students, retired principals, staff members, and neighbors have stepped in to help. We have raised funds through online fundraising at each school site to support families with food and supplies. Every school in the district has become a food collection and distribution center. Yet, even while delivering food, educators have been followed by ICE. Given the recent violent actions associated with ICE operations, educators are understandably afraid. Staff are doing their best to hold it together, but every day we wonder, how long is this sustainable? The toll of this ongoing presence is devastating to our community's safety and well-being. The Columbia Heights community is distraught. Children cry in class, worried about whether their parents will be home when they get off the bus. For the sake of our children, this must end now. I could not be prouder of our school district and community. From educators to principals to families and students, everyone has responded to this trauma with extraordinary strength during unprecedented time. Our community is giving everything it has to face these dangers, which have been forced upon us by our federal government. It is a time for our leaders to do what's right and protect Minnesota's children and educators by ending ICE operation in our state. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Samantha Wolf. I'm a parent of 2 young kids, 4 and 6 years old, and I live in Woodbury, Minnesota. Even living out in the suburbs, I cannot overstate how this federal ICE occupation in the Twin Cities is affecting family life all over Minnesota. Families are trying to comfort kids who are scared they will be taken, or their friends will be taken, or their parents will be taken. This occupation has turned the entire Twin Cities into a place of terror. When I heard ICE agents detain someone on a main road in Woodbury, a road I drive every day to get my kid to school, things got very real. The undercurrent of fear is everywhere. Should I take my kids to eat at a restaurant when I know ICE might show up violently to detain our neighbors? What will I tell them if one of their friends gets taken? Even just seeing ICE is scary now because we've all seen what they can do to someone who is holding them accountable. My kids' preschool, eye doctor, and pretty much everywhere we go now have signs designating areas as private, a warning for ICE officers if they come in. ICE is single-handedly destroying our sense of peace in the community. Like so many others, I've been helping my community by delivering food, diapers, and basic necessities to families in need. The first time I made a delivery to a family, it just broke me that this is even happening. I don't even know what to tell my kids when they ask why I needed to leave before bedtime again, and why we have so many diapers in our house if no one in the family wears diapers anymore. And I'm really lucky. Other families are having absolutely devastating conversations about missing family members and why they can't go to school or play in the park. These are conversations that no parent should ever have to have with their kid. I don't want to scare my kids, but I can't lie and say everything is normal because it so clearly isn't. After the kids go to bed, my conversations with my husband used to be about planning birthday parties and play dates, and instead, now we're making contingency plans for how to respond and explain to our kids that Mama got detained for helping our neighbors. Gun-toting federal agents are kidnapping small children from the streets and pepper spraying our babies and following us home and harassing us while we perform our constitutional rights. None of this is normal. Every aspect of our lives has been turned upside down by ICE. Ordinary acts of helping neighbors have turned into dangerous operations. All of us are determined to do everything that we can to keep showing up for each other, but we shouldn't have to be put in this position. So that's why I'm joining with thousands of other Minnesotans and the folks behind me to demand ICE out of Minnesota right now. Next, we have Rhea, a student from Maple Grove.
Hi, my name is Rhea DeLoza, and I am a senior at Maple Grove Senior High. Thank you to the Sunrise organization for asking me to speak on behalf of students in Minnesota. I want to start by being honest. I live in Maple Grove. We have seen ICE's presence and raids ramp up significantly in the past few weeks. The impact on our school and greater city community is great. Many students at Maple Grove are now in e-learning or not coming to school at all. Many of my friends who are so passionate for justice and activism have been silenced because they fear for themselves or their own family's safety. But even then, the effect on Maple Grove pales in comparison to the immense damage done to communities and schools in the Twin Cities and in other targeted suburbs. This is because Maple Grove is a predominantly white area, and ICE is an openly racist institution that relies on racial profiling. Despite the varying levels of damage done to the school communities, there is something that is constant across them all: our sense of fear. Fear has absolutely no place in a school. Students should never, ever be afraid to come to school because of the fear of endangering themselves or their family. Students shouldn't have to fear being tear-gassed on their school property. No one should feel the fear that Minnesota students face at school. ICE doesn't keep our communities safe. They make innocent, hardworking families and children fear for their safety and for their lives. Many school districts, including St. Paul and Minneapolis', have reopened the option of remote learning for students. My district, Osseo Area Schools, has an online learning option that they've had since COVID that has struggled to accommodate the amount of students who have registered for remote learning these past few weeks. On top of losing school as a safe space, those who are too fearful of theirs or their family's safety to go to school are losing valuable educational time and momentum. This is why, on Friday, January 30th, students across the metro will be walking out of school and going to the governor's mansion in St. Paul to deliver messages from our missing classmates and demand safe busing for students, the suspension of the policy that unenrolls students if they miss 15 consecutive days of school, and that standardized testing be paused due to the amount of students unable to attend school. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Steve Swedzinski, State Senator from Eden Prairie and Minnetonka, but more important, I taught American government for 33 years. I don't know how I would be teaching this right now, these times that we're living in. I just don't know how I would be, both sides to the story. I want to thank you guys for all being here today. As all of you know, democracy dies in darkness, and you guys are the fourth estate, and thanks for getting this message out to everybody out there. You guys have been working double time, I imagine, these days. So thank you for being here today. Thank you to all the speakers that spoke before me. We have one more left. But before Representative Clardy comes up, I just want to say, during all those times I taught American government, I never thought I'd see something like this. I never once thought. We used to talk about all these tyrannical places. You know, the irony of this quote doesn't escape me. Above the Senate chambers in the hallway outside is this quote engraved in stone in the Minnesota State Capitol. And the quote is, education is a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. Yeah, really. Education is a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. It's engraved in stone outside the Senate chambers. FDR, during the height of the 30s and all the horrors of the world that we were all going, well, we weren't, but our ancestors were going through, FDR tried to come up with a working definition of what a democracy looks like. And his working definition of a democracy was this: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. Freedom from fear. That's what our students are fearing right now. They're fearful. I don't remember much of going to the University of Minnesota. That's not an attack against the U. It's more what my side interests were like at the time. But nonetheless, at the University of Minnesota, one of the things they kept telling me about is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you can't get past here because you're not safe and you're suffering from fear, we can't possibly get those kids to self-actualization, which is the goal of every educator in the short time that they get to fertilize and water them in their seats. We want to get them to be a self-actualized citizens. And in all those years of teaching, when I tried to instill in my students senses of civic duty and civic efficacy and civic engagement and political efficacy and all those wonderful things that our students are supposed to gain in a K through 12 educational system, we can't have them staying home because our democracy depends on it. Thanks for listening. Representative?
You got this.
Well, first of all, can I start out with a ditto? I'm Representative Clardy. I have the honor of representing the southern suburbs, or some of the southern suburbs, but more important than that, I'm a teacher. I just retired after 30 years of working for St. Paul Public Schools. So my story today is the impact of the little ones I worked with and why we do what we do. Right, Chair Yukim? Okay. I don't know if you would understand how haunting it is to walk down the hallway and just see classrooms getting smaller and noticing kids just are not showing up at school. So I am thinking of a specific kindergarten classroom where 3 little ones did not come to school on a regular basis. And the importance of that is that they're learning. They're learning Spanish, they're learning English, they're learning how to be students. They also are learning how to, build a community. How can we keep telling kids that we are trying to make school safe for them when at the same time, we're telling them that they need to stay home because school's not safe for them? And these are some very important years. ICE is not good for anyone in Minnesota, but a child trying to understand, what safety means, or trying to understand why their whole world is turned upside down, kind of wonky, and things are just not making sense. Can you imagine being a kindergartner and worrying about your parents' safety? Can you imagine wondering if your parents are going to meet you when you get off the bus or when you go home? These are what our kids are going through every day. And just as a kindergartner, we just need to, well, actually kindergartners all the way up to high school. I mean, think about, they've already lost learning because of COVID, some of them, okay? So they've lost learning because of COVID and this. And what are we going to do when we look at our brown and black students' achievements? Are we going to forget that this happened? Are we just going to think, why are the brown and black kids not learning? Okay, so I have some questions for our electeds, and I guess I'm one of them, but what is our responsibility? And what do we do with the kids that have the learning loss with the COVID and this situation? How does that play into their employment opportunities in the future? And also just what can we do right now? So these are the questions that I have right now, and I'm sure that you have some questions for us, so I'm going to open it up to questions at this point.
There's been a lot of talk about electeds. Which electeds are you addressing?
Great question. All of us. But you know what? Even if you're not elected yet, it's your responsibility to do something. And sometimes we have to look to where we fit in. We have to get in where we fit in. So maybe not going on protest line, maybe that's not your thing, but maybe you know a neighbor next door that needs groceries. Or maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you're a retired teacher. And maybe you can volunteer to do some tutoring. So just everyone is responsible. But more than anything, I guess I'm really passionate about all of our kids. We spent a lot of money, right, Jerry Kim, to make sure that the schools are a place where kids can achieve. And if we are spending the money, we need to make sure they have the environment to do it in.
Question?
Yeah, I have two questions. First, could someone explain the
Yes, I would love the superintendent of Columbia Heights, Zena.
Good afternoon, Zena Stenvik, Superintendent, Columbia Heights. As many of you know, 1 week ago today, our little Liam Conejo Ramos was detained by ICE. And we've all seen the bunny hat, but I want to make sure everyone's connecting the dots that Conejo, his first primary last name, Conejo, means rabbit, means bunny. So I've been getting many emails where the entirety of the message is, Yo soy Conejo. I am the rabbit. So hearkening back to World War II era, many of you may have heard the story of Sadako and the 1,000 paper cranes. Columbia Heights Public Schools and our community were working on our origami conejos. Thanks.
So a couple weeks ago, I received a number of messages from different districts, and Senator Clark sent me an urgent, wherever he is, an urgent message about the necessity and the worry that many kids are coming up on that 15-day drop date. In Minnesota, if a student misses 15 consecutive days, they're automatically dropped from the district from the rolls. So we sent a message to the governor and to the commissioner of education asking if there was something that could be done, an executive decision, executive proclamation or something like that. They went and looked at what could be done, and they created flexibility for the school districts to decide how to ensure that those kids not be dropped and fall out of the system. And if that means online learning or other ways to address the needs of those students, the school districts have that flexibility.
May I please add?
Yes.
This is something that's very big in my work in Columbia Heights. In the in the middle school, and this is something that my staff really wanted other people to understand, I don't think you would. Most of our families that we deal with that are experiencing this, the most vulnerable families, are extremely obedient. I don't know a better word. They want to do right. They listen to teachers. They listen to principals. They're there when you tell them to be. So when you tell them after 15 days, you're wrong, there's some truancy court, there is a legal aspect as well, but it's putting them in an extremely hard situation. They want to be a good part of our community and follow our rules, but they're not going to risk it by getting outside of their house. So it's hard for us for rostering and for a bunch of, red tape kind of things, but it's really that it puts even another just impossible lose-lose ask onto these families.
Yes.
Are you hearing support for these ideas from your colleagues across the aisle, even if it's just behind the scenes?
Well, I can't speak for any of the other electeds here, but I haven't heard a word from any of them. Not a word.
How does that make you feel?
On the one hand, I am not surprised, given, the past rhetoric around education. And when we hear, some of the comments from other electeds about we just all need to, kind of shut up and shut down and let ICE do whatever they want with our communities. But it's actually very heartbreaking because you have to believe that our elected officials on the other side have heart. We have to believe that they have a sense of what's right and what's wrong. We have to believe that they know that the terror that is happening across our state is absolutely wrong. And the fact that they don't step up and say something, or they don't talk to us about how they can help support our families in any way, shape, or form, that tells you that they don't have the moral fortitude or courage to step up and do what's right. And so, speaking for myself, I find that to be a really, really sad state of being. I think we have some other comments.
Hi there. Christine Tucci Osorio, Superintendent in North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale. One thing I want to bring up today is that in education, we often try to stay clear of political issues, right? We serve all of our communities, and we try to really be nonpartisan in the way we operate. One thing that, as I've gotten questions, why aren't you just sticking to education? Why are you sticking your nose in politics? My response is, throughout this crisis, as with many other crises like the pandemic and previously, two things come to mind. As school leaders, we're focused on safety and safety of students, staff, and families, and student learning. And when things are happening that get in the way of those two things, it is our deal to deal with. It is our job to speak out about it. And so it's not coming from a place of partisanship. It's coming from a place of protecting learning, safety, and student learning. And so you see a lot of angry educators behind me because we're really, for the first time, trying to, we try to stay out of politics, but right now we can't. We have to raise the issue that these issues are impacting safety and student learning. And I'm going to hit those 2 points over and over and over again because it is our job to speak up on these issues.
I just wanted to add, as the House Education Finance Chair in 23-24, we created a whole funding stream to make sure that we had more psychologists, school nurses, social workers, and counselors in our schools. And just as we're just starting to see the benefits of that on our last Minnesota student survey, we're now going steps and steps backwards. And as Superintendent Osorio said, this is all of our issue. And as electeds, we try to look at the funding stream and make sure, working with, as Senator Cooner said, Minnesota Department of Education, to make sure there's that flexibility for districts to meet their students where they're at. I want our fellow electeds to meet our students where they're at. And in the House, we're tied. We don't have as much flexibility to have the extra hearings during interim to do anything. And early last week, our colleagues in the House across the aisle sent a letter that has been made public that was a little terse about us standing down and just following the rules. But there's hope within that too, because not all of our House GOP colleagues signed on to it. So as leaders, we need to put ourselves in it, but while also making sure we don't put our emotions in it, which is really hard at this point in time, and continue to try to work across the aisle so that we can make sure our kids have what they need, our schools have what they need, and our families have what they need to succeed.
And I just want to add, who asked the question? I'm sorry. Just go. Okay, anyways, two of the Republicans on ed policy have reached out to me, and two Republicans on ed policy have reached out to me personally, and just said they're excited about this session and learning and trying to do what they hope will be the right thing. So.
Hello, my name is Olivia Timmons. I teach ECFE, Early Childhood Family Education, for the District of Columbia Heights. My students are birth to 5 years, so I have the literal youngest and first learners in our district. My attendance has been really low, and I think that we need to be mindful that this is a traumatic situation, and trauma literally rewires the brain of humans. So this entire event is literally rewiring the brains of our learners. And that will have lifelong impacts on all of them. Yep. And that's important to know. We need ICE out now.
Thank you. Well said.
One more. Got a question about your poster. Is that the same 5-year-old whose father abandoned him in the car?
Oh, no.
Because there was a child that ICE went after the dad. Dad took off out of the car, left him to boy. That's not true.
So
Is that the same one?
that is a total false narrative.
Yep. I was there.
Okay, I'm so mad.
So, I take a lot of issue with the idea that this, the lies that are being spread about what happened that day. I was there. I knew multiple community members who were also there at that time, and he did not run. He did not abandon his child. The car was still running. They took him out of it. He did not. Yeah, those are the facts.
All right, thank you very much. And we just want to leave with, it's important that ICE gets out of our schools and stays out of our schools. Thank you.